Right. All right, so I think this is class 19 on Masachet Ketuvot, and I want to go to the bottom of Daf Daled Amud Bet and look at the this is the end of the end of the second sugya, which, as we said, had 5 parts, and this was the 5th part of the second sugya. And I said in the previous class that I want to go backwards and review some points, because the class 18 I gave was really just Surata Dishmateta. I didn't really go into the Ayun. I just wanted to, I went through the sugya. We explained basically. We showed the structure. We did. I don't want to say we did 0 Ayun, but we did close to 0 Ayun. So today, unlike class 18, which focused on the structure and the basic flow of the conversation, today I want to do some Ayun. So give me a moment just to open my notes. Yeah. In fact, even before we go to okay, so the second line from the bottom of Daf Daled Amud Bet was Amar Mor Ben Kach uben Kach Lo Yib'ol. That's the 5th part of the sugya. But before we even go there, I want to deal with about go from the bottom 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. When does the avelut start? Right? We were dealing with the question of when avelut starts. So, Father, can you hear me well? Yes. Okay. Good. Okay. So you see it 5, 6 lines from the bottom of the page. So I explained that generally the halacha or the practice is like Rabbi Yoshua, because the Avelim go to the Bet Kevarot, Sotmim et HaGolal, or in the modern context, they are burying the deceased, and the Avelut starts from then. The Aninut ends and the Avelut starts. But I didn't mean to say that there's no situation where halacha can't be like Rabbi Eliezer. It depends on the situation. Okay? Let me give you an example. So let's say the person is not osek in the kibura directly. Let's say the person is going to stay here in America, and he's going to send the manoach or manocha to be buried in Israel. So in that case, he wouldn't start the avilut from when the deceased is buried. The avilut would start, or maybe he takes the coffin to the airport and it boards the airplane. So let's say the avilut would start then. So that would be like Rabbi Eliezer. You understand the point? Meaning, the avilut starts from when the obligation of the onen ends. So if the onen is sending the manoach, the manocha, on an airplane to be buried in Israel, that's it. He did what he's doing. He's not doing more. So in that case, avilut would start immediately. You understand the point? Actually, even though the burial didn't take place, but since he did what he needs to do, right? Is the point clear? Another example, they have in this Minhag Yerushalayim, for whatever reason, I think I know the reason, my father once explained it to me, but I think it was the Hidah who brings the Minhag, that the sons don't go after their father in the Bet HaKevarot, meaning if the father passed away and now the son needs to bury his father, so he goes up to the Bet HaKevarot, or the way it was done is he would go to the Bet HaKevarot and then he would wait for the people to enter the Bet HaKevarot, and then once ne'elmu me'ayin, he would turn around and go home. So whatever the reason is, the sons, according to this minhag, the sons should not go to the kippur of their father. Okay, no problem. I did. I went. I went to the kibbutz of my father. I did not follow this minhag, but the minhag exists. What's important to understand is that many people follow this minhag. Certainly in Yerushalayim, till today, many people follow this minhag. So now, if you're in that situation, let's say, where, not you, it's a person, but Reuven's father passed away. Yaakov was Reuven's father, and Reuven's father passed away, and now they go to bury Yaakov in the Bet HaKevarot. And Reuven is going to follow Minhag Yerushalayim, and he's not going to go to the Bet HaKevarot to bury his father. He'll go up to the Bet HaKevarot, and then they'll continue, and then Ilmu Me'inav, and then once the Ilmu Me'inav, he's going to turn around and go home. So he would start the Avelut immediately, right? He would start the Avelut immediately, even though they're still Oskim B'Kevura. Right? So here's another example of Achi Yasem Petach Habayit. You understand? So I wanted to clarify that law and show that it depends on the circumstance. Okay? I mean, it's not right. No, they're both practical halakha, meaning it depends on the situation. There will be situations where it will be Achi Yasem Petach Habayit, such as the situation where the Avel, the Onen, is not directly, he did everything he needs to do, and he's not going to be further engaged in dealing with burying the person. But if the Avel is directly engaged in the actual burial, then it would be Achi Yisatem Golal. Okay? Alright, I just wanted to clarify that point. Having clarified that point, I would now like to explain the fifth part of the sugya. Again, we did this last time b'surah shitchit in a superficial way, and now I want to do it be'iyun. I'm going to read. Okay? My sons are in Israel. They went to Israel, so I'm going to do the reading. Okay. Aman Mor. בין כך ובין כך לא יבעול. לא בערב שבת ולא במוצאי שבת. This statement, Amal Mor, is from the third Baraita. Now, I want you to understand something, because again, we're doing iyun here. We're not just doing a superficial reading of the text. It says, so the Gemara says as follows, Bishlama, Be'erev Shabbat Mishum Habura. It makes sense, and I'm going to explain in a moment what Bishlama means, but put it on the side. It makes sense, or it's reasonable, that when you say Lo Yiv'ol Be'erev Shabbat, I can understand why. Because he's going to make a Habura. And I explained last time why Habura, and why it's asur to make a habura on Shabbat. Especially she's a betula, and she has done betulim. And on Shabbat, habura is a type of mefarek, which is a talada of dash. Isur d'oraita. Ela b'mosa'e Shabbat amayla. Why on Mosa'e Shabbat do we say lo yiv'ol? So let me explain this. Go back to Daf Gimel Amud Bet. Go back to the first Baraita, right at the top of the page. Count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And then the 11th line. This is the first Baraita. The first Baraita says, Umafrishin etehata minakalla Lele Shabbat Tehillah. Okay. There's a couple of things that you need to pay attention about this Baraita. Number one, it only refers to Friday night. It says that a person should not be, for the first time, with the Kalla Friday night. What's the reason? The Peresha will say Habura, she's a Betula, and he's going to be making Habura on Shabbat. Okay? That was the first Baraita. Now, the second Baraita said nothing about that. Go now to the third Baraita. The third baraita was Daf Daled Amud Aleph. Tanya Kevatet Rav Chisda. You see the Tanya Kevatet Rav Chisda in the middle of the page? If you go down from the Tanya Kevatet Rav Chisda, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, where was it? Yeah, 8, 9, 10. Look at the about 10 lines from Tanya Kevatet Rav Chisda. Ben kach u ben kach lo yiv'ol. So this is the third baraita. Look what it says. Ben kach u ben kach lo yiv'ol. Lo be'erev Shabbat ve'lo be'mosa'e Shabbat. The third baraita says you can't be boiled the first time on Erev Shabbat, and you can't be boiled the first time on Mosai Shabbat. Now, 2 points. Point number 1. The third baraita doesn't only say Erev Shabbat. It also says Mosai Shabbat. Okay? Point number 2. The reason given by the first baraita, why can't you be boiled on Friday night? Because you're going to be making a habura. You cannot apply that reason to the third baraita. Because the third baraita says, Ben kach u ben kach lo yiv'ol, lo be'erev Shabbat ve'lo b'mosai Shabbat. Whatever reason you give for Erev Shabbat, Ben kach u ben kach has to be the same reason for Mosai Shabbat. Now the reason of, I'm sorry, I just have to shut my phone here so I don't get disturbed. Okay. The reason of Shemeh Ya'aseh Habura would have applied if it was only Erev Shabbat. But the third baraita says Erev Shabbat and Mosai Shabbat. So you can't say Shemeh Ya'aseh Habura as the explanation. You understand the point? Yeah. All right. So that's the problem that we're dealing with now. So let me read this again. Let's go back to Daf Daled Amud Bet on the bottom of the page, 2 lines from the bottom. Aman Mo. Ben kach u ben kach lo yiv'ol. What does ben kach u ben kach mean? Because if you look at the third baraita, going back to the third baraita for again, where we keep switching back and forth. It says, in a special situation, pito afuya, tevachot avuach, mazug. Okay, all those laws were dependent on a very specific circumstance. The law of Erev Shabbat and Mosai Shabbat does not depend on a very specific circumstance. Ben kach u ben kach means in all circumstances. It's not dependent on the situation, but rather it is a categoric rule that one may not be bo'el or get married, according to this, either Friday night or Mosai Shabbat. Right now, I want to explain to you what it means. Ben kach u ben kach lo yiv'ol. Lo yiv'ol, generally, liv'ol in Hebrew means to be with the woman. But in this context, it doesn't mean to be with her, to perform the act of be'ilah. It means to be a husband, meaning to be noseh, the wife. The reason the word yiv'ol also became the act of being with the wife is because that's what a Baal does, the nisuin, right? But here when it says lo yiv'ol, it doesn't mean not to have that physical, perform the physical act. It means not to get married. I want to be clear. It's a little different than the first baraita. The first baraita was clearly speaking about the actual be'ilah, and that's why it says lo yiv'ol batechila. If she was a betula, lo yiv'ol. Understand? The third baraita is not talking about the act. It's talking about the marriage, the nisuin. And therefore it doesn't say batahila. The word batahila is missing. You understand the point? There is no batahila because it's talking about the marriage. It doesn't matter whether she's betula or almana. So again, the reason Shemei Ya'aseh Habura, which we saw in the first baraita, cannot explain the third baraita. All right? Very important to understand these things properly and not in a sloppy fashion. Right. So let's read it again. Amar benkach ubenkach lo yiv'o, meaning you should not marry her. Lo be'erev Shabbat here. Erev Shabbat means Friday night. Velo b'mosei Shabbat, and not Saturday night. Okay. So it says as follows. Bishlama be'erev Shabbat mishum habura. Okay. So the yeshiva wants to examine the second element. It wants to examine the law of Mosai Shabbat. For whatever reason, it wants to bypass the first law, the law of Erev Shabbat. So it says Bishlama. Bishlama, in this case, is a rhetorical device to bypass rule number 1, Lo Yiv'ol Be'erev Shabbat, and to go right to rule number 2, and Lo Yiv'ol Be'mosei Shabbat. We want to examine Lo Yiv'ol Be'mosei Shabbat. Why? And you're going to see that the reason is they want to find a ta'am for Mosai Shabbat that could also apply for Erev Shabbat, because that would make the third baraita much more logical in its structure, right? Because benkach u benkach implies that there should be a relationship between the reason Lo Yiv'ol Be'erev Shabbat and Lo Yiv'ol Be'mosai Shabbat. Okay? I'm explaining to you the strategy of the sugya. I'm explaining to you the strategy of the sugya. All right? All right, so Bishlama Be'erev Shabbat Mishum Habura. Let's accept the original reason given that the first baraita, Mishum Habura. Put Erev Shabbat on the side. But that reason cannot explain Mosai Shabbat. You understand? So therefore, we have to understand what the reason is for Mosai Shabbat, and then maybe we can understand the reason for Erev Shabbat as it applies in the third baraita. All right? Now, okay. All right. And again, I just want to explain. In the first baraita, we had the word techillah. So because we had the word techillah in the first baraita, the reason Shemei Yaseh Habura can work there. But that won't work for the third baraita, because the third baraita doesn't say techillah. I just want to emphasize that point. Okay? Let's go. So let's go. Apparently, it doesn't say tahillah. Exactly. It doesn't say tahillah. So we have to think of this in a different way. You can't. So we're putting Erev Shabbat on the side. Erev Shabbat we're putting on the side. But we're going to look at Mosai Shabbat. Okay, so we're going to look at this a little more deeply. Now, let me ask a question. You look at baraita number 2. The second baraita we didn't look at yet tonight. The second baraita was on Daf Gimel Amud Bet, on the bottom of the page. It's almost identical to the first to the third baraita, right? And it's a little strange that we need 2 baraitot that say almost exactly the same thing. The only difference between baraita number 2 and baraita number 3, as I recall, and maybe there's a detail that I'm missing. The first difference is baraita number 2 doesn't say anything about Bo'el on Erev Shabbat or Bo'el on Mosai Shabbat, and it doesn't bring the law of Niddah. Whereas the third baraita does say Lo Yiv'ol Be'erev Shabbat, Lo B'mosai Shabbat, and then it brings the law of Niddah. There was also, the other difference was Noten Mayim Al Gabei Basar. The first baraita didn't say anything about Noten Mayim Al Gabei Basar. Okay, but that's not germane to our discussion. So the question is as follows. Why do we need both baraitot? The third baraita and the second baraita, they're almost identical. Why do we need both baraitot? You understand? So here's what I'd like to explain to you. Clearly, the second baraita was originally accepted by the yeshiva that's why it says the Tanya. Tanya means that the yeshiva formally accepted this beraita in the archives, in the formal archives of the yeshiva. Every yeshiva had an archive of halachot that you were able to present in that yeshiva as an authoritative source. That's what the Tanya means. So we know that the second beraita was accepted in yeshivat from Betita. How do I know yeshivat from Betita? Because all the comments in Daf Talid Amud Aleph is from yeshivat from Betita. Let's see. I'm looking at Daf Talid Amud Aleph. Rafram Bar Papa, right? Rafram Bar Papa was not the son of Rav Papa. I mean, he wasn't the son of the famous Rav Papa, at least, right? He was a student of Rav Chisda and a friend of Rava. So that's in yeshivat from Betita. Who else? Rav Chisda. Okay, Rav Chisda is a little difficult. He was a Talmid of Rav, but he was also a Talmid of Shemuel. Later on, he became the Rosh Yeshiva in Sura. So I also want to be accurate in the way I present things. But Rava was Yeshivat from Betita. Then Rav Papa. Rav Papa was a Talmid of Avayan Rava, and he was also Yeshivat from Betita. So you see, this Beraita, the second one, was accepted in Yeshivat from Betita. So now the question is as follows. Why do we need the third Beraita? We know it brings us those added laws. Understood. But what is the relationship between the second and third Beraita? Or is there a relationship? Do you understand my question? All right. We don't need to corroborate it. There was no mahloket. There was no issues with it. They already corroborated it. And the proof that they corroborated the second beraita, as they called it, the Tanya. So I want to explain this. There's a special class of baraitot. My father taught me about this. Hadeni kaparat mishkavo. There's a special class of baraitot that would seek, or that would act as a bridge between the Yerushalmi and the Bavli. So this class of Baraitot were there specifically designed to try to bridge something already accepted in Bavel with certain laws brought in the Yerushalmi. And that's exactly what this third Baraita does. And I'm going to read you the Yerushalmi now. And then you're going to see why we're saying this. But you understand the point. Here we're going to see that the Yerushalmi analyzes the question of lo yiv'ol, lo be'erev Shabbat, ve'lo be'mosei Shabbat. And the Yerushalmi, you're going to see, or the opinion of the Yerushalmi, is incorporated into the Baraita. So let's look at this now. I'm looking at the Yerushalmi now, the very first column in the Yerushalmi, in Masechet Ketuvot. And give me a moment, the letters are very small. All right, I'm reading it to you now. Okay, Shavin. שאין הנישאת לא בערב שבת ולא במוצאי שבת. Okay? So you see, the Yerushalmi brings the law of Erev Shabbat and Mosei Shabbat, just like the third Baraita, and unlike the second Baraita. Okay. What's the reason? לא בערב שבת מפני כבוד שבת. Okay. Erev Shabbat, you can't get married because of kevod Shabbat. The Seudah would be, okay, let's say you get married Friday. Okay, so now the Seudah that you're making is going to be a big Seudah. But you have the Mitzvah of Kevod Shabbat. The Mitzvah of Kevod Shabbat means that the Seudah you eat on Shabbat has to be the main Seudah. Because of that, you shouldn't be eating a big Seudah Erev Shabbat. So what's going to happen to Kevod Shabbat? You understand? Okay. Okay, Slo be'erev Shabbat. Again, what did the Beraita say? The third Beraita says that don't get married Friday. Why not to get married Friday? So now we see in the Yerushalmi a reason. Mipnei kevod Shabbat. Okay, let's continue. Velo b'Mosai Shabbat. You shouldn't be getting married on Mosai Shabbat. Why not? Habraya Amrin or Habraya Omerin Mipnei Torah. Habraya is the plural form of Haver. So Haver, of course, is a Chacham. Habraya means a Chachamim, meaning the majority opinion in the yeshiva in Eretz Israel. What's the reason that you shouldn't get married Mosai Shabbat? B'nei Torah. Okay? What does Torah mean? Torah means preoccupation. We're going to examine the concept of Torah in due course, but it means preoccupation, right? Tirha. It could also mean work. You have work to do. So why Mosai Shabbat? So apparently, Torah means that on Shabbat, you're going to be tarud mentally preparing for the wedding in your mind. You're thinking about the wedding. I have the wedding coming up. So that's why you shouldn't do the wedding on Mosai Shabbat. You understand? That's the Torah. Rabbi Yosef Omer, B'pnei kevod Shabbat. Rabbi Yosef says no. What's the reason that you can't get married on Mosai Shabbat? B'pnei kevod Shabbat. This Rabbi Yosef, by the way, is not the famous Rabbi Yosef, the Talmid of Rabbi Akiva. This Rabbi Yosef is the Talmid of Rabbi Yochanan, and he says the reason you can't get married Mosai Shabbat is the same reason you can't get married Erev Shabbat. B'pnei kevod Shabbat. Also, why kevod Shabbat? Because normally you have Seudah Shalishit. Now you have a big wedding. So you're not going to have such a big Seudah Shalishit. You're going to have the wedding coming up. They say save all the food for the wedding, save your appetite for the wedding. So again, a question of Kevod Shabbat. You understand the Yerushalmi? Okay, again, just to review the Yerushalmi examines the question. What's the reason that, okay, right, I'm sorry, step back. The Yerushalmi states we don't do the wedding Friday, we don't do the wedding Saturday night. Okay. What's the reason we don't do the wedding Friday? Because of Kevod Shabbat. Why Kevod Shabbat? Because he's going to be eating a big meal. How is he going to eat a big meal afterwards on Shabbat? He just had a big meal on the wedding. Okay, Mosai Shabbat. What's the reason we don't do the wedding Mosai Shabbat according to the Yerushalmi? Habreya say Torah, Tircha. The whole Shabbat he's going to be thinking, oh my gosh, I have the wedding, do we have enough food? Preoccupied. Where's he going to sit? Where's she going to sit? With this, that? Okay. That's Havraya. The Yosef says no, same reason. Same reason. Kevod Shabbat. Kevod Shabbat, he's not going to be eating full meals on Shabbat. Why? He knows he has a wedding coming up. Okay, clear. Now you understand that whoever formulated this third Beraita was speaking to the people in Bavel and trying to incorporate the laws of the Yerushalmi into the Beraita, so that we have here a Beraita that was accepted eventually in the yeshiva, and it incorporated the laws of the Yerushalmi. So that's an important point to see, and this happens sometimes. It's not so common, but here we see it. So now let's examine it. Now that we have that background, we can examine the laws. All right. All right. Yes, and how do we know that? Because Darash Rav Yosef Berei Derava. Right? Darash Rav Yosef Berei Derava. Okay? And then we're going to see here Avayeh, and we're going to see here Rabbi Zera. Okay? So this is all happening in Fom Betita, this third Beraita. Okay? Tanya, yes? That's what it says, the Tanya. Yeah? Okay? All right, so now. I mean, first of all, the second one was probably, I would suspect, the second one was, first of all, an earlier baraita. And you see that not only the second one was an earlier baraita, I would say that it was, if you look at the names, we have here Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda was, as I said, he was the Rosh Yeshiva in Surah, but he was a Talmid of Rav and Shemuel. So he was a Talmid of Rav and Shemuel. He's second generation, right? Rav Chisda was second generation. And if you look at the third baraita, you have Darash Rabbi Yosef Bered Rava. That's already one of the last generations of the Emoraim. But then you have here Amar Bizera Mishum Cheshbonot Amar LeAvaye VeCheshbonot Shel Mitzvah Mi Asira. So this was a baraita that apparently was formulated later on, and it was formulated later on for the purpose of creating that bridge. You understand? So the original source was the second baraita, and then they brought the third baraita. You understand the point? Yeah. All right. So now let's look at legufo shel inyan. Let's okay. Give me a moment. I'm getting my notes. Had a lot of good material today. I'm actually excited about the class. All right. So just to review, so the first reason in the Yerushalmi was tirha, exactly, correct. And the second reason was kavod Shabbat. Okay, very good. We understood that. Now look at the Bizera. So the Bizera says, so the Gemara says, Amayla, why can't we get married? Mosai Shabbat. Amar Bizera, Mishum Cheshbonot. So the Bizera was in Eretz Israel, and then he returned to Babel. So now, when the Bizera returned to Babel, he apparently brought with him the idea which was expressed in the Yerushalmi. What did we say in the Yerushalmi? We said, what's the reason, the first reason, according to Habraya? Because of tirha, Torah. Hishbonot is the same thing as Torah. What does Torah mean? You're preoccupied. Preoccupied, how much food do I need? Where we could have 50 people, we need 50 pieces of chicken, we need 100 sambusak, I don't know, whatever. What does the Bizera say? Cheshbonot. Where did he get Cheshbonot from? Cheshbonot is the semantic equivalent of tirha. You understand? You see how without the Yerushalmi, we don't understand what's happening here. But now we see that Bizera went to Eretz Israel. He brought back the idea of tirha, and now he's relaying it in the yeshiva. He's very excited. He's very proud of the fact that he knows this, and he's relaying it in the yeshiva. There's only one problem. Avayeh. So, Amar Bizera, Mishum Cheshbonot. Very nice. Makes sense. You got to let the marriage take place Mosai Shabbat, and he's going to be torah the whole Shabbat in his mind, preoccupied. What do I do? How many people? Where do they sit? This uncle is fighting with her. I can't put them on the same table. But then when is his wife going to? Okay, Amale Abaye, Heshbonot shel Mitzvah Mi Asira. So Abaye says as follows. But hold on. You're saying that he's going to be preoccupied with Heshbonot. But this is a preoccupation, calculating regarding to Mitzvah, related to Mitzvah. Right? And now he's going to bring 7 separate people who all express the opinion that Heshbonot shel mitzvah is permissible. And this is the way it's structured. He starts from the last generation, then he goes to an earlier generation, then he goes to an earlier generation, all the way to the seventh person, which is Rav Menashe or Rav Menashia, which is the same thing. He's already a Tanna. You see the way it's structured? From the most recent to the earlier, to the earlier, to the earlier, to the earlier. There's another thing that has to be said. It also goes from the more specific to the more general, which is to say that the last generation makes the most general statement, the most broad, far-reaching statement, whereas the earlier generation was making a less broad statement, and the earlier generation was making a less broad statement till you get to Rav Menashe, who made the most specific statement. Okay, so just so you see how it developed, how the law developed. Okay? All right, so now. All right, so let's see now. So let's look at the actual reasoning. All right, let's look at the first one. So this is the first reason why we reject the notion of heshbonot as being forbidden on Shabbat, because again it's heshbonot shel mitzvah. V'harav chisda v'rav amnuna de'amre tarvayu. Now what does de'amre tarvayu mean? De'amre tarvayu is an expression that means as follows. Not only did they both say this statement, but each one said it independently of the other one. And that's a great chidush. Meaning, it's almost like Leibniz and Isaac Newton, the Amre Tarvayu, derivative calculus, right? That's literally what the Amre Tarvayu means. All right. So here is the statement. חשבונות של מצווה מותר לחשבן בשבת. If you're doing a cheshbon related to a mitzvah, this is allowed on Shabbat, right? This is a very general statement. Cheshbonot means any sort of mental calculation, any sort of mental preoccupation. Shel mitzvah. Mitzvah means any mitzvah. You understand? So cheshbonot shel mitzvah mutar lechashivan b'Shabbat. Very simple. That was statement number one. ואמר רבי אלעזר, פוסקין צדקה לעניים בשבת. I believe this is Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat. Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat was a sort of Talmid Haver of Rabbi Yochanan. When the Shakish died, because of Rabbi Yochanan, Chazid, why? Man, that was tough. I don't know if you know the story in Bava Metzia. Wow, what a story. Anyway, when the Shakish died, in Perek HaSocheret HaPoalim, I think. When the Shakish died, they brought Rabbi Elazar ben Pedat to study with Rabbi Yochanan. I believe that this is the Rabbi Elazar that they're talking about. Okay. That's very important. What is the word poskim? Poskim. What does poskim tzedakah la'aniyim b'Shabbat mean? The word lifsok means to give a precise number, right? Meaning this is a hidush. It's not just after Shabbat let's give some tzedakah to Reuven. After Shabbat let's give some tzedakah to Shimon. No, it means okay. Let's see that Reuven has an electric bill of $250, and he has a food bill of $250, but he only has $100. So we have to give him $400 to supplement. Very precise. And that's what poskim means. A very big chidush, right? Poskim, right? So on Shabbat, you can decide. The Reuven is going to get $400. Shimon is going to get $359, right? That's poskim. Now there's a Gemara in Masechet Arachin that says that it's asur to be makdish on Shabbat. Let's say a person has a beautiful gold vase. So he says, makdish this gold vase lebedek habayit. Okay, it's hekdesh. Haram to be makdish on Shabbat. Why? Because I think it's the Gemara in Masechet Bava Mesi'ah. I'm just trying to remember it. Amirato לגבוה כמסירתו להדיוט. That's a Gemara. Again. Amirato לגבוה כמסירתו להדיוט. Can you Google that? I can't Google that. I don't have any computer. Can you Google those words? If you can. If you can't, I understand. Amirato לגבוה כמסירתו להדיוט. Just say, I just want to know what Gemara it is. If it shows up, if it doesn't show up, not the end of the world. Oh, Abenu chat. Is he in a Mora or Tana? No, okay, that's fine. Okay, no, okay, it's good. If I have to get Bava Mesi'ah, I could bring it. I mean, I just don't want to get up and look for it. I think it's at the beginning of Bava Mesi'ah. Amirato legavua k'msirato lahidot. I think it's actually in the first chapter. Okay, but it doesn't matter. I could be wrong. I didn't check it out before the shiur. Ben kach uben kach. Amirato legavua means if you're makdish something to bedek habayit. Okay, let's say Reuven tells Shimon, you see these glasses? I tell Shimon, I'm going to give you these glasses. They're yours. They're not his. They're not his in Talam Moser. The glasses. Only at the point of the Mesirah is there a kinyan. Right? He has to take physical possession of the glasses. Until then, it's not his. It's mine. Okay. So now, in the case of Ekdesh, Amirato legavoa kimsirato lahidyot. When you just say the word, I'm going to give this golden vase to Bedek Habayit, it's considered already masur. There was a kinyan, and that's why you can't make Ekdesh on Shabbat. Again, that's in Gemara Masechet Arachim. You can't make it Ekdesh on Shabbat because Amirato legavoa kimsirato lahidyot, and it's kinyan on Shabbat, business, transfer of ownership. Okay. All right, but now you understand the chidush. But poskin tzedakah la'aniyim b'Shabbat. You understand? Notwithstanding that, we can say that we're going to give this and this amount to the ani, because in the case of tzedakah there is no kinyan. The kinyan is only once you give it to him. He doesn't own it, right? All right. Very nice. No, I would think it's asur because it's asur to do hekdesh on Shabbat. Number one, and maybe it's a type of heshbonot, poskin. So this poskin, even poskin, right? This is another proof against the shita of Rabbi Zera, right? All right, but you see, it's more specific. Okay, now here we have the third source. Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yohanan. Skip it, because in the old manuscripts, this third source was actually the fourth source. So skip it and go now to the real third source, which is Amar Rabbi Yaakov Aridi, Amar Rabbi Yohanan. Mefakechin pikuach nefesh b'Shabbat. Okay. This is a real third source, and it says "Mefakehin pikuach nefesh b'Shabbat." What does that mean? Mefakehin pikuach nefesh b'Shabbat. Of course, pikuach nefesh is mutar on Shabbat. What type of baraita is this? Mefakehin pikuach nefesh b'Shabbat. You understand? Mefakehin, we engage in. Or we administer pikuach nefesh b'Shabbat. In 15 minutes, you're going to have to give us a new hangout. But you understand the problem. So, it really means Mefakehim pikuach nefesh doesn't mean actual pikuach nefesh. It means we do things related to pikuach nefesh. I'll give you an example. In New York, we have something called Hatzalah. So Albert Hassan, have you heard of Hatzalah? If you're on I don't know if he's on with us. It says he's on with us. But so we have Hatzalah. So Mefakehim pikuach nefesh means, let's say we can get together. Okay, we need a new driver for Hatzalah. We've been understaffed. We need more funding. Mefakehim pikuach nefesh b'Shabbat. Or let's say security risk now. Pro-Hamas demonstrators. So we say, okay, we have to get a new security guard for the Knis. We need to build bulletproof doors for the Knis. That's mefakehim pikuach nefesh b'Shabbat. You understand? Great. You're discussing what you need to do. Yeah. All right. All right. Now go backwards. Amar Rabbi Yaakov, right? What was originally the third source, but is really actually the fourth source. Amar Rabbi Yaakov, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, הולכים לבתי כנסיות ולבתי מדרשות לפקח על עסקי רבים בשבת. This is even a greater chidush. This isn't even for pikuach nefesh. It's not for tzedakah. It's not. This is just secular needs. Iskei rabim. Less religious needs, right? Secular needs, meaning public affairs. You know, I don't know. Lately, the sewer here has not been working. Every time it rains, it overflows. We have to get somebody to clean the sewer. They're expecting a snowstorm next week. Do we have anybody to shovel the snow? That's Iskei Rabim. Understand? So that's a fourth source. All right. All right. All right, let's go to the next one now. Ve'amar Rav Shemuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan. Now we're already up to Rabbi Yonatan. Rabbi Yochanan was earlier than Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi Yonatan was a Tanna in the days of Rabbeinu HaKadosh, in the transition period. So you see how we're going backwards? We started with Aliman and Arfnista, second generation Emoraim. Then we went to Rabbi Elazar, earlier. Talmid Chaver of Rabbi Yochanan, so between the first and second generation. Right? Then we went to Rabbi Yochanan, who was kind of first generation Emoraim. Now we're Rabbi Yonatan, already that transition period between Tanaim and Amoraim. So, Amar Rav Shemuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, Holchin letarteya'ot ulkarkeya'ot לפקח על עסקי רבים בשבת. This is פלא גדול. Okay, פלא גדול. So it says as follows, literally, on Shabbat you're allowed to go to the theater. On Shabbat you're allowed to go to the circus. Why? לפקח על עסקי רבים. Because you want to deal with issues related to the Iskei Rabim. A couple very difficult issues. I wonder how Rashi explains this. Let me see how he explains it. I'm curious. I have an explanation, but let's see how Rashi explains it. Rashi. Okay. He brings Tarteayot, Palte Melachim Eshotarim. Okay, that's what Tarteayot means. Tarteayot means theater. Okay, Pele. Okay, no problem. No problem. This is a difficult Gemara. First of all, going to the Gemara, you're not allowed to go to Tarteayot and Karkeayot. Let me explain to you first of all what these things was. So the Tarteayot is literally the theaters. These theaters were places of public performances. Now, this was like, back then they didn't have Netflix, and they used to go to these theaters for public plays, and in the theater, as part of the performance, they would have avodah zarah, public avodah zarah. The reason the Gemara says it's forbidden to go to tartei ha'ot, because they used to do avodah zarah in the theaters. So that's why. The word theater today, it's the same word, but it's not, if you want to say it's not to go to the theater for whatever it is, fine. But it's not because of the Isur of the Gemara. The Isur of the Gemara was based on the fact that it was public ceremonies. Like they would have like a nativity scene, and everybody would be Kore'im Mishtaqadim to the Virgin Mary, for example, right? So that's number one. Now the circuses, that's like the Roman amphitheater, where they used to have lions eating people and very gross. The Gentile world has a very dark past, and honestly, like you see these Americans coming out in mass in favor of the brutality of October 7th, and you realize these are the Tze'etzaim. Their parents went to the Karkei Ha'ot. They used to enjoy watching animals eating people. I mean, they're sick people. Much of humanity is afflicted with very deep mental illness. We always think, he has a nice suit, or she wears a nice dress, or they're very sick people. They're very ill people. Right? We project our own values onto others, and that's a mistake we make. Right? It's a terrible mistake that Jews make. So we don't realize that the Goyim are fundamentally ill. So like Jews are convinced. There's a guy called Zoran. He's running for mayor in New York City. He's a Sonei Israel, avowedly so. He's Sonei Israel. He says if he gets elected mayor, he's going to arrest Bibi Netanyahu. Okay, that's funny almost. And he's going to lower the price of groceries, because of course the mayor decides what the price of groceries are. It shows you the mental level of people. Now the point is, why am I saying that? So 20% of the Jews in New York, they were polled, they're going to vote for the Sonei Israel. Jews have an illness that they don't understand. When the guy says, I hate your guts, and I support Hamas, and I love what happened on October 7th, they don't seem to understand they really mean what they say. No. He doesn't really like October 7th. It's just, he's upset about the occupation. No, he really, the Palestinian will fool himself. Mommy, Daddy, look how beautiful this is. It's just wonderful. I said, no. That's not what he meant. Chas v'shalom. He didn't mean that. Right? He meant because of the Palestinian occupation. I mean, anyway. So there's a mental illness of the Goyim that there's a very deep element of having a sick, perverted desire for filthy violence. And then there's a mental illness of the Jews who think, no, the Goyim don't really mean that. Then comes the Holocaust. Okay, I guess they meant it. I don't know, maybe not. Right? But now they're different. The Goyim are different. So the Karkei Ha'ot, the Chachamim, were against it. The reason you couldn't go to the Karkei Ha'ot because it's mamash mag'il goal nefesh, what they used to do there, right? So that's number one. So it's forbidden to go to Karkei Ha'ot. It's forbidden to go to Karkei Ha'ot. So now the question is, what is he talking about? So what's he talking about? How can he say, Amar Rav Shmuel ben Nachmani, Amar Rabbi Yonatan, הולכים לתרתי האות ולקלקי האות לפקח על עסקי רבים בשבת. מה העניין? לפקח על עסקי רבים בשבת. אתה מבין את השאלה? You understand the question? Alright, let me explain this. My father, it's not an easy question. And my father, Alav Shalom, he says he wants to discuss it with Professor Bickerman, who apparently was an expert in these things. I don't know if he did discuss it with him or did not discuss it with him, but this is the explanation he gave me. He said, now you need to go to see if, an important person. Where are you going to see him? There's a big game. They have 10 lines. They're going to be eating 20 people. Very exciting. Everybody's very excited. It's the final, the playoffs. The Lions seem to be winning the playoffs against the people. But this is like the final playoff, you know. So you go to the circus. You go to the amphitheater, and the important dignitaries had their box seats. And if you wanted to see him, you'd be able to meet him. That was a place, the sporting event, where you would sit down and chat and talk. So now you're a Jew, you're a Jewish leader. How can you go to Karkea'ot? The answer is you can even go to Karkea'ot on Shabbat if it's the Fakeach al-Iskerabim. So you know that, for example, the local Roman mayor is going to be there, and you want to discuss with him if there's a problem in the road, there's filth, there's garbage on the road. Can you see it? Send somebody to clean it. So you're going to sit there, schmooze him, and try to, you know, do what you do. Maybe buy him some beer while they're watching the lions eating the people. And also because the lions are eating the people, he's in a good mood. He's mabsut. He feels really good. Right? He feels satisfied. That was good. And now he's more receptive to hearing the Jew asking for what he wants to ask. It's interesting. The Saint Augustine, he mentions in his Confessions, I don't know what the book is called, I believe it's called the Confessions, maybe. So Saint Augustine, he mentions that he had this Yetzer Hara that he used to enjoy in his younger days, going to the Karkea'ot and saying this gore, but then he Hazat B'Tshuva, and he realized that it's disgusting. Okay, fine, interesting, but it's among the Goyim. Just I want you to understand that the Goyim have this horrible, dark, evil, sadistic tendency, and October 7th, the reaction, not October 7th, the reaction to the October 7th was two types of Goyim. One type of Goyim were like Saint Augustine, who said this is disgusting, we want to have nothing to do with it. Another type of Goy who says, yeah, this was amazing, and they're all demonstrating in the streets. What they're really demonstrating for is not a Palestinian state. They're demonstrating for the brutality that they miss from the Karkea'ot. It's been, football is not enough. Basketball is not enough. This is a real thing. That's what they were excited about. All right. Let's go to the next one. All right. We have maybe we'll stop here and let's share please with us a new Google Hangout. Okay, I'm hanging up. Okay. All right. Very good. So let's do the next one. And this is the seventh one. Betana deve Menashia. Menashia is equivalent to Menashe. Mishadechin ala tinoket le'ares b'Shabbat. You can make a shidduchin for a young girl, for irusin, even though it's Shabbat. And you can also make plans. For example, you see the teacher in the knis, you say, I have a 4-year-old, I need you to teach him. I want you to teach him how to read. I want you to teach him Tamim. How much are you going to take? How much would you take? $100 a week or a month, whatever. I need you to, can you come once a week? Can you come twice a week? So, Alatinok lelamedo sefer, ulelamedo umanut beshabbat. There's a missing word here. Ulelamedo umanut beshabbat. Lelamedo umanut beshabbat doesn't mean that you're teaching him Shabbat. It means that you're discussing with the person who's the uman. The discussion is taking place on Shabbat. That I need you to teach my son how to be a wood chopper. He wants to work in the forest chopping wood. I need to teach my son how to farm the fields. Can my son go to your farm twice a week to be your apprentice? You understand what it means? So you can do that on Shabbat. And again, as I said in the class on Sunday, Here we see explicitly ללמד אומנות. Right? This, I mean, the whole Chared, I'm sorry, Mechilat Charedi world is farcical. I mean, it's actually a type of Reform Judaism. I'm not saying there's nothing they do that's good. Of course not. There's also some good things that the Reform Jews do, although that the Reform Jews do, although much less. I think lately, I think they've gone completely crazy. Many of them, maybe not all of them. Certainly not all of them. I know some good ones actually, but it doesn't matter. The point is that the Haredim are a type of Reform Judaism. I mean, it's just remarkable how removed they are from the Torah Emet. On Shabbat, you get somebody on Shabbat. They want to arrange that he's going to be teaching your son Umanut. Okay, now you're right. I didn't think of that. That's a good point. Nice. Okay, what does it mean, Mishadechin alatinoket? That's a more difficult thing. And I'm reading it. Mishadechin alatinoket liyaris b'Shabbat. So it's strange. Tinoket milashon yanuka. Yanuka means breastfeeding. Back then, people used to breastfeed till older age, 4 or 5 years old. That was very common in the earlier generation. People didn't have formula. How are you going to take care of your baby? So they could breastfeed. Okay. So tinoket, almost milashon, still breastfeeding. Okay. So how could it be that the Gemara says, what's the lashon again? Mishadechin ala tinoket. So first of all, the word mishadechin, let me see what it means. Shiduchin is not today. Shiduchin means today is like you're going to make a shidduch. Okay. No. Shiduchin means negotiations, bargaining, business discussions, back and forth discussions. So the family of the Kala, the family of the Hatan, they get together. When do you want to do the wedding? What age should she be? What age should he be? How many guests are you bringing? What are you paying for? What are we paying for? That's what the Shiduchin means. Business negotiations. That's number one. So it says, Mishtadechin ala tinoket. But she's young. So my father, he did discuss with Professor Bickerman. And what Professor Bickerman told my father is that it was common in the ancient world to the Goyim, Asher Besar Hamonim Besaram Mamash. So it was common in the ancient world. The Goyim used to be for an adult to be with a child. Okay, let's just put it that way. I'm just thinking of a nice way to say it. It was like the most common, east and west, north and south. That was just part of pagan humanity. And the more primitive the people, the more common that was. Okay, so let me explain to you what the problem was. The Machshemam, the Goyim, the Jews always, we were not only more intelligent, we were cleaner, and we were better looking than the Goyim. Go to Israel, Baruch Hashem, Israelis are beautiful physically. I mean, they have stupidity, no need to be marich hamad, but they're physically beautiful. You see, one of the things that shocked me when I first came to America, taking the subway, it was shocking. It was shocking. It was shocking. I was like, what am I surrounded by? Okay, fine. So the problem was that sometimes the Goyim, they would look at the Jewish young girls, and by young I mean tinoket, and they would have their eyes on them. Because of this, mishadechin ala tinoket afilu b'Shabbat. If you realize that maybe your neighbor is, potentially interested, it's an emergency. And Mishadechin ala tinoket doesn't mean you make the irusin on Shabbat. It means you make the negotiation so that now you can do the irusin immediately. And once you do the irusin, the girl is protected. Historically, the same goyim that would be attracted to whatever. For some reason, it was a taboo among them to be with somebody who's engaged. So we know that when Avraham Avinu goes to Mitzrayim, Avraham tells Sarah, Imrina Ahotiat. Otherwise, they'll kill me. They don't want to be with the married woman. It was a taboo to be with a married woman. So the same goyim that were as they were, but if it was a married woman, no. Rather, right? So, and I know among the Yemenite communities also, they used to do shidduchin on the girls at a very young age, because the Arabs, they would have their double thing. Number one, take a Jewish girl. Number two, convert her to Islam. But again, if she was me'ureset, they wouldn't touch her. Now, just to give you a sense of the majnane, the complete majnane of the goyim. So you'd have some hick for Arkansas who never opened the Gemara before. He doesn't know. He barely knows how to speak English properly. And he's going to start criticizing the Gemara. Mishadechin ala tinoket. Yahmar. It's because of hamorim like you that we have to do mishadechim ala tinoket liares, not linaseh yahamor liares, right? I don't believe in answering these people, because these people are the biggest perverts themselves. But Hazaka, that these people, 100%. I don't believe in answering them, but I believe in us understanding the absurdity of the argument, right? The absurdity of the argument. So, yeah, that's it. Good. Ain't getting stung. I'm not going to do the mistake of David HaMelech. Yeah, he criticized the. Let me wash my hands. I want to do Netilah in a second. David HaMelech, he criticized the. Why I should create spiders. Okay, I'm back. So, all right, let's continue. I did Netilah, and it's a ma'us. I just killed an insect, right? Right, so it's exactly, we're studying Torah. I didn't do beracha. For Amidah, we do beracha. But for Talmud Torah, I wouldn't do beracha. Okay. Yeah, you have to do Netilah again for sure. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So now you understand what Mishadechim ala tinoket means. Okay. So because of this, Rabbi Zera, Ella means he rejects the previous statement. The original statement was Mishum Hashmonot. Ella, Amar Rabbi Zera, Gezerah shemeyishpat ben of. This is a strange law. Gezerah shemeyishpat ben of. So let me explain to you what this means. Gezerah shemeyishpat ben of. Literally, it means that he may end up making shechita on a bird. It's a strange law. You're telling me, what's the reason you can't get married Moshe Shabbat? Because you might end up doing shechita on a bird on Shabbat. Strange. I don't say gezerah that he might end up cooking. Gezerah that he might end up, carrying something to Reshut Rabim. Gezerah that he might end up putting on the fire. What's a gezerah? He might catch a bird and do shechita on a bird. No, you understand? It's a strange thing. It's a strange law. Right, so this is what we're worried about. All right. I want to give you a great chidush of my father. All right. So there's a passage in the Yerushalmi. I think it's Daf He Amud Aleph in Masechet Ketuvot, and it brings a thing that the husband says, no betulim, to the wife. She says, yeah, there was betulim. Here, I have the dam betulim. The husband says, no, that's been off. You did shahita on a bird. That's the key. The husband, now, normally the custom was, you have the dam betulim, and you have the ed, the cloth. That shows it was dam betulim. Right? Now he marries a betula. Now, there's a few possibilities. One possibility is she's a betula. Ketuvah says betula. He may know personally that she's no longer a betula, and he may be the reason for that. So perhaps you understand what's going to happen. Normally, he would be shohet ben off, so he can show, oh no, she was a betula, Baruch Hashem, everything is good. Betula. Here, when is he going to be shohet ben off? The minute Shabbat finishes, wedding, this and that. So he wants to have the mitpachat ready for after that he's ready. So gezerah shemeshchot ben off. Perfect, the Shabbat, quiet, nobody's around. During the wedding, everybody's around. You know, he has a haverim, she has a haverot, she has the right, the people with them, right? The whole Shabbat Yemei Mishteh. When he's going to make shaitan ben off, you know, he's gonna want to go outside, find the bird. They're all going to become following him. You know, get some meraktim, lifnecha. And the guy just wants to be left alone because he wants to make shaitan ben off. But he cannot make shaitan ben off because they're all following him. They're with him the whole Shabbat Yamim. So what's he going to do? So Shabbat, before the wedding, gezerah shemei yishchot ben off. Right? Right. So El Amar Bizerah, gezerah shemei yishchot ben off. So now Avaya says, okay, let's stop here. I think it's a good place to stop. El Amar Bizerah, gezerah shemei yishchot ben off. Right. Next week, Bali Neder, we will continue the sugya. But any questions before we? You listened to the previous class? Do you have a chance? The one I gave. Okay, good. Right. Strange that Hatan is going to be making shechita on a bird, of all things. It's a strange meaning. The idea, you have to think of the semantic meaning of ben off. Why ben off? And why shemei yishchot ben off? Why not shemei yishchot animal? I mean, he has 100 people coming to the wedding, and he's making shechita on a bird. It's almost like saying gezerah that he might make a cheese toast sandwich in the toaster. The guy's having 100 people coming to the wedding, and you're worried he's going to put a toast sandwich in the toaster. You see what I'm saying? It's a strange thing. Again, I'm not saying that the other explanation is not possible. It is, but always it's good to understand. Sometimes in the Bible, you see particular expressions used in two different places, so you know there's a relationship. Similarly, in the Gemara, when you see a particular phrase, it's hard to just say it's a coincidence that there it was ben off and here it's been off. But I'm not saying that you can't explain it another way. I just like to say, yeah, I like it more. I like this explanation more. Okay, let's, so next time we'll continue studying. Kol Tov, Laila Tov.
Okay, if I'm doing 200 times do? I first 300 0.03. I do that. 3 times 0, 0, 0, 9, 0, 0, 0. Okay, whatever. I'm doing 0, 9, 0, 0. How many decimal places do I have? Let's say this is 30. Let's say this is 30.1. And this ended up being how many decimals do I have? I see 2 decimals. I see 1 here and I see 1 there. Do you also see 2 decimals? Yeah. How many numbers are there? Count all the numbers that are after the decimal. Oh, 3. So let's say I start from the end and I go 1, 2, 3. And I choose 0.903. What I'm going to do, 201 times 2. So 20.1 times 0.2. So do this. What do you think first? Multiply normally. Good. Now, what are after the decimals? Oh. So 4. Exactly. Right? That's it. That's how you multiply decimals. Okay? Very good. So if it's saying here, let's do one more of these. As streaming service increased the subscription price, yeah, you need to look at this just now. We went up from 10 to 12. What was the percent increase in price? What do you have to do?
What?
Basically, how much?
Hi.
What's the dollar amount that you went up? $2. 2 over the original amount.
I just wanted to ask you a quick question, please.
No, it's 2%. Yeah. You just have to do the amount that you increased over the original amount.
So on YouTube, I have a YouTube channel, and it says I had 60,000 impressions over the last week. And then I also have LinkedIn video posts that I post, and it just gives me the number of impressions. What is an impression?